Derrick Henry in the backfield.
Yeah, I'm excited for this high quarterback play from both of these candidates. As Pete said, this literally could come down to the wire. I wouldn't be mad, like you said, if they split it as well. And when you look at both of these teams, I know people will say Lamar has the better team, but I think it's slightly disrespectful how James Cook has kind of been disrespected in this manner. He did lead the league in rushing touchdowns this year, and what people also aren't talking about, Khalil Shakir was #2 in yards after catch. You know who the #1 guy was? Jamar Chase, the Triple Crown winner. So guess maybe from a, position group, Lamar maybe has a slight bit edge on that, but I think it's going to come down to these two quarterbacks. Whatever quarterback can elevate their team is going to win this game.
By the way, I think if I read this correctly, I went through it a little bit. I think Josh Allen's also the first or second team All-Pro quarterback to be the only All-Pro on his first or second team All-Pro on his entire team in like the last 15 years or something like that. So, look, Lamar's had better players on both sides of the ball than what he's had on both sides of the ball this year. You can't deny that. They have the better. I think if you ask the majority of people, the Ravens have the better team.
I would agree with that, but I would say also they've had a harder road. The schedule's been significantly harder for the Ravens.
Well, if you count Pittsburgh's 2 wins, then they're not very good.
I mean, but they played 10 playoff teams and it was 7-3 versus those guys.
Well, you could also go to the other side and say the Ravens. The Bills beat the #1 seed in both conferences,
and they lost 3 other games to other playoff teams.
But they also beat the 2 #1 seeds. I mean, you can make a case either way. This is why he's going to make his case for Lamar. I'm going to make his case.
A little tease here for another segment to come. But to your point, there's only 2 Pro Bowlers on the Bills, and one of them is Josh Allen.
Yeah, if we do pivot, because a lot of this conversation has been about Derrick Henry and how he's really opened up this Ravens offense. He had 199 rushing yards in that Week 4 meeting. Obviously, that was successful. But Pete, when you talk about his impact, right, just contextualize how he's been able to open up this Ravens offense. And I'll take it a step further. Is it sustainable for him to maintain this level of play going through the postseason?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. He opens up things for Lamar, but Lamar opens up things for him, the way they design the offense. And I went back and watched that first game today. And one thing you noticed is the Bills were without their starting linebackers and without their starting nickelback, and every single backup made major mistakes in that game. Major mistakes. And they didn't tackle very well. The opening play, I mean, it was off to the races, and it was just blocked very well. It was a great design. Ricard came in motion and kicked out on Ed Oliver, and up the lane they went. But if you watch it, Dorian Williams gets caught inside instead of going scrape it to the outside. It was an easy run. I think with Milano and Bernard back in the lineup, I think that's big for them against Derrick Henry. But to answer your question, stopping Derrick Henry is tough to do.
It's hard.
You have to get him before he gets going. If you go back and watch all the teams that have had success against him, you don't get his feet going. You cut his legs out before he can get going.
And that's the tough part. And we talked about this, Pete. If you're Todd Monken, they had an issue last year going away from the run. People forget, even though Derrick Henry signed to this team, the Ravens had the #1 rushing offense in football last year. That was their identity, and they didn't lean on that in the AFC Championship game. So even if King Henry starts off slow, you have to continue to lean on him, because we see it. There's time after time, right? Whether it's the Cleveland game in Week 18 where he didn't really rush that well in the first half. It's like the body blows. He just continuously hits you with a 4-yard here or a 3-yard here. Next thing you know, it's 40, 50 yards out the gate. I went back and watched that game as well, and I think them not having Buffalo, not having their 2 starting linebackers did have a big effect on the game. But something else that isn't going to change, they lost the physical battle in the trenches. The defensive line got pushed around by the Ravens offensive line, and I guarantee Sean McDermott is looking at that tape and saying, fellas, we need you guys to take it to another level. Yes, it's going to be great having Terrell Bernard back and also Matt Milano, but for those guys to free flow over the top, we can't get driven off the football, and that's what happened in that first meeting.
I think they're going to have to get creative with their scheme. I really do.
Talk about the Bills defense.
I think you might see something exotic. If you go back and watch what the Chiefs did to them last year in the playoffs, they were, Spagnuolo showed a lot of stuff pre-snap, rotated out of it, and kind of confused them a little bit and kind of took them out of what they want to do. Now, Derrick Henry wasn't in that game, so it's a big difference.
I got a question because they predominantly are in nickel personnel, the Bills. Do you think that changes because of Derrick Henry and the Ravens coming to town? Because they didn't do that and it hurt them last time.
I would even get more creative than that. I would play some 3-3 fronts and get creative and bring the.
That's what I'm saying. Bring in another linebacker.
Yeah, I would get creative.
I was going to say exactly how creative, because again, this is a Bills defense that looked pretty good in their first outing in the playoffs here. They held the Broncos to only 7 points, but this is a whole different beast with Derrick Henry. So Pete, just rattle off some more creativity. What should they do?
I think you want to make Lamar throw to the outside. Don't let him get outside. Those are two things you have to do. He's great. I mean, he wants to throw into the middle of the field. That's ideal. Everybody has to hold their rush lanes. You can't let him get outside of you, because when he does, he's going to beat you. And blitz, creative, a lot of blitzing up front. I think if you go back and look at teams that have blitzed that offense, they've had success against it. But you got to do it, because if you turn your back to them and play man-to-man in the back end, you're asking for a lot of big plays.
Yeah, Jay, take us just really quick. Because you've played in games like this before, you've been on the defensive line. Yeah. Take us inside the preparation of what it's like when you're looking, like, we've got to worry about Derrick Henry, but we also have to worry about their pass catchers. We have to worry about the quarterback.
Correct.
Just take us inside what that's like.
To that point, Haley, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think Coach Austin, the defensive coordinator, came out all week and said, we're going to stop Derrick Henry. And what did Lamar do in the first half? He had like 60 yards rushing. So you're in a conundrum, because it's just like you could either take the slow body blows from Derrick Henry, and then if one guy's out of his gap, he can take his 60 or 70 yards. Excuse me. But then you have to worry about the agility and speed of Lamar Jackson getting to the edge and getting to the outside. So, again, you want to create havoc. I think that's what Pete was saying makes a lot of sense. You go back to when Brian Flores was the Miami Dolphins coach. He had a lot of success versus Lamar doing exactly that, exotic blitzing, going man and switching up and throwing some fire zones at Lamar Jackson. I think that's what you have to do to throw off that timing. To Pete's point, with Derrick Henry, if you do let him get going and he gets to the secondary, it's lights out. You have to make him stop his feet, change directions, go east and west, and not north and south.
Here's the other thing. They put in the first meeting, Justice Hill had a big day catching the football out of the backfield. Yeah. Make him block. In other words, when you're a linebacker and you're matched up with him, make him stay in protection and block, because he's not great at it. And the Chiefs did a great job of that last year against him, and I think that's the key. He got out against the Bills and I think he had 7 catches. He had one for a touchdown outside too. I think you got to make him become more of a guy that has to stay in and protect.
Okay, I hope the Bills were watching CBS Sports HQ, because there's the game plan. Fellas, got to get a pick from you guys. The Ravens are slightly favored in this one, which is interesting. It's a road game for them. But Lige, I'm looking at you first, so I'll ask you, what's your pick in this game?
I'm taking the Ravens to cover. I believe it's 1.5. I just think styles make fights, and the physicality of this Ravens offense. We talked about how they had success running. Yes, Terrell Bernard will be back. Yes, Matt Milano will be back. But I just think this offense is hitting on all cylinders, and this time Todd Monken won't abandon the run game, and I think it'll be too much for the Bills.
And I'm going the other way. I'm taking Buffalo. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl, and I do think that there's something going on here with this team. You look at the numbers, they're the best team in terms of giveaway takeaway ratio in the league. That matters. That will show up in the playoffs, and I think Josh Allen is on a mission. I'll take Buffalo.
I was leaning Josh Allen, and then we saw the hype video for Lamar, and now I'm like, Lamar. So we'll have to see. We still have plenty to discuss, though, about